Welcome, everybody, to the XFL show on the Gurley True Sports Network. I'm your host for the XFL show, Mike Goodpaster. And right now, help me welcome to the show, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
I don't know. We ain't even been doing this a minute yet. We've already lost control of the show.
No, we didn't because I don't think anybody heard the very start because it was still like loading up. But if you missed it,
Damn it.
I'm not even sure what you missed by now because I forget things a lot. But we are at week 3 of the XFL season, and it's the week that Matt McGloin likes to say, "I'm glad week 2's over." So let's start off with Matt McGloin. He is the Guardians quarterback. Um, I guess it is the risk you run when you have a live cam and you're asking a guy right after he screwed up what happened. But I think this is a problem. And I think this is a problem because Kevin Gilbride's the head coach. I never liked Kevin Gilbride as a head coach. I never really thought that he had control of his teams in the past. And I think we kind of see that now.
Yeah, that was riveting entertainment on a Saturday afternoon. If you didn't see it, get on YouTube or something and fire it up. Pretty interesting. He the first people kind of talk about the one at halftime where he said, we just need to throw out the game plan, which I mean was. But if you take the I think it was the first or second one that he did first that quarter, you already could see it building. I mean, he was trying to pace his words, but it wasn't the greatest. And then Gilbride comes on there and shoots back at his quarterback. And if you're Fox, you've got the best, which I think it was Fox or whoever it was. You got the best situation now because you're pretty much going to put a microphone in front of one of them two any chance you get, because it ended up being a war of words going back and forth on national TV. That was crazy.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that disturbed me is when they had them together and they're talking to each other. And, you hear Kevin Gilbride also throw the offensive coordinator under the bus. And he's like,
Yeah.
I know he's not really buying into what I want to do. I mean, come on. If you're not on the same page yet and we're at game 2, maybe you should have already done something about it.
Well, and here's the big thing from it is why are you going to throw your quarterback is throwing the head coach and, in effect, offensive coordinator under the bus. The head coach is throwing the quarterback and offensive coordinator under the bus. How does that look? And how do you get past that come Sunday, Monday, Tuesday? I don't know. It seemed like there needed to be someone from the Guardians to look at head coach, quarterback, who would say, right now, shut up would be the best thing to do, and that didn't seem to happen. So,
Yeah.
that was pretty interesting. But again, and let's also say this. Well, once again, things like this are what sell ratings, and this is a Vince McMahon league, so of course that's something that they're going to want that controversy. Controversy sells. So, and I even saw somebody say early in the week, ask the legitimate question: how much of that was real, and how much of that was maybe put together?
Oh, I think it was all real. I think they just lucked into that one.
I think it all was. I think, in my opinion, based on what I saw, that was real because it, but it's what the drama you're going to have when you're not playing well and people are putting a microphone in front of your face. It's what's going to happen. This won't be the last time it happens.
Hey, and let's face it, if you're the offensive coordinator, it's hard to come up with a game plan when Matt McGloin's your quarterback.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things. I think we talked about it last week. He's a guy that you've got to put him in a position to manage the game, have your defense play well, and hope he doesn't make mistakes.
And let's face it, he missed a lot of wide open wide receivers, especially in the first half.
You and I were talking about that. The first one was the one that still in my mind. It was 4 verts, and the receiver's wide open, and he throws it 5 yards behind him. That just didn't seem like that should be possible. So we have our drama. We kind of thought maybe it would be Los Angeles after they fired the defensive coordinator after the first week, but I think we maybe have found our drama team that you got to have. It seems like every league has got to have one every year, and I think maybe we have found our drama team.
Maybe we can have Hard Knocks with the New York Guardians next year before the season starts. Because I think it's safe to say Kevin Gilbride and Matt McGloin, unless they go and just don't play anywhere, they're not going to be in the NFL. So you could have that. Of course, the defenders, opposite. They look good offensively, defensively. Cardell Jones played well again. Eli Rogers played well. Rashad Ross, DeAndre Tompkins. This is a team that has weapons offensively. The defense looked good, but I don't know if that's so much that they played against a horrible offense or not. But the DC Defenders, I think right now, have to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in this league, and they looked good.
Yeah, they really did. And this, for the second week in a row, they looked good in pretty much every phase of the game. Defensively, offensively, and we've talked about Jones before. He's a guy that came out of Ohio State way too early. Well, now he's in a position where he can really continue that development, and we're seeing some of that development now. We're seeing, he's still at times late on his throws, but when he's on, he's on. He made some, 2 weeks in a row, I think he's made very good decisions with the football. To me right now, they're, definitely, if they're not the top team in the league, which we can also, talk about Houston as well, but if they're not the top team in the league, I mean, they're definitely, top 2.
Yeah, I think there is a divide between the best teams and everybody else. And right now, I think there's 3 of those teams. I would throw St. Louis in there, too, because I think that's a team, the way they run the ball, the way they can play defense, Jordan Ta'amu, I mean, they're a good football team also. So I think those 3 teams are the teams when we think of the best. I think those are the guys that stand out to me. We had Seattle, which had a crowd of almost 30,000 people. They win their game 17-9. Brandon Silvers found Keenan Reynolds on a huge play. The biggest play of that game, and I think the greatest play in XFL history so far, has been Marcel Frazier with the interception at the end zone. It reminded me of J.J. Watt against the Bengals and Andy Dalton in the playoffs back in 2012, I think it was.
Yeah, and that was a great play. Great ending to this football game. You've got the, was it a touchdown, was it not kind of deal. That the second half was really a good second half. It was a fun second half to watch. And I said, on last week's show, I said I thought Seattle would win this game. And they did it. And you touched on the crowd, but that was a really good atmosphere. We talked about, how this is better in the smaller stadiums, but I mean, that whole lower bowl, you had 30,000. I think it didn't be slightly above 30,000. You had all those, that whole lower bowl. It looked good on TV. It was loud. We actually had somebody from Spokane that actually went to the game, and they said, I mean, it was every bit as loud. They said it was a lot of fun. So, that's a great showing and a chance for them to do it again this week because I know Seattle's home, and I'm already hearing that it's going to be a good crowd. So, I think Seattle's doing a great job with their marketing, obviously, and getting this win's important because when you can win a football game, it means you can get people back next week.
Yeah. And when we look at the Vipers, they still have not scored an offensive touchdown. They did get an interception for a touchdown. And I think the Dragons, the thing that holds them back defensively, they're good. But I think Brandon Silvers holds them back. Their backfield may be the best with Trey Williams and Kenneth Farrow. Farrow spent a fair amount of time in the NFL, and I think they're good there. But the Vipers, the question to me is Mark Trestman, who always just looked like the science teacher you didn't want to have because he was smarter than everybody else. And it looks like they're going to go back to Aaron Murray now since he's healthy.
I don't know why you don't give Flowers an opportunity. I understand. I understand from one aspect, Trestman from his NFL days, go all the way back to his CFL days in Montreal when they won, a couple Grey Cups. I don't think he knows what to do with a quarterback that can run and pass. I think that's one problem. But in my opinion, Murray is not the answer. I thought the kid from Oklahoma State, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I had it earlier, but I mean, at times he looked okay, and at times he looked terrible. But every time Flowers is in there, he does something. I just don't know why you don't give him a chance. At this point, what do you got to lose? You're 0-2, and this is not a 16-game season. It's a 10-game season. So what do you got to lose by making that move?
All right, let's move on to Dallas, L.A., which was, to tell you the truth, the 2 games Saturday weren't that great. And after I watched the first half of Sunday, I was actually considering not watching anymore. And then a game was played in the second half. A 3-3 tie ended up being a 25-18 win for the Dallas Renegades over the LA Wildcats. And this is a game where they lost the battle of turnovers and still won the game. And a lot of this was just how Mummy's willingness to just run the ball down Winston Moss's defense throat. And Winston Moss, since we could sit there and listen to the play calls, never really adjusted at all, Brian.
No, he never did. And to go back on your comment about watching the first 2.5 games, I mean, here was the thing. The Defenders game, I thought, the Defenders Guardian game, quite honestly, outside of the controversy, I thought
the second half of the Seattle game was pretty good.
Yeah, the second half of the Seattle game was pretty good, but the first half of the Renegades LA game, but yeah, the second half was great, and the fact that I kept saying in the first half, boy, I mean, Mommy got, if he'd just run the ball a couple times right now, because you could see it, and boy, in the second half, I mean, he went downhill, and that, sometimes it's hard for guys that are throwing guys to just admit, I just need to hand the ball off. But I mean, he did, and I kept waiting to see LA make an adjustment, and they never did. So again, a great win for Dallas in the fact they needed this win, but boy, LA, as another team that you look at and go, I don't know that they're going to be a factor in this season right now. I just don't think they're a very good team.
Yeah, and Landry Jones somehow threw for 305 yards. I still want to recount on that. And I think the star of the game for Dallas was Cameron Artis-Payne, who finished with 131 yards from scrimmage, 99 rushing, 2 key second-half scores. So when I look at this, I think Dallas got a shot to be a playoff team, but I think Winston Moss in L.A. is a wreck. They got Josh Johnson, who can play a little bit, Nelson Spruce, who looks like he could be one of the better receivers in the league. But outside of that, I think LA's got significant issues with their coaching. And
I agree.
0-2, you're in trouble. And Winston Moss showed it, because I would figure Winston Moss was allowed to hire his own defensive coordinator. Wouldn't you think?
You would think.
And if he did,
you would definitely think.
If he did, and he had to fire him after one game, that tells me more about Winston Moss than that defensive coordinator.
That's 100%, and that's exactly what I've said. And you hit the nail on the head. After one game, you're firing a guy. I think that's a little bit more of a reflection on him as the head coach than it is on the defensive coordinator they fired.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the game of the week, which was the Houston Roughnecks. I keep wanting to call them Rough Riders, but the Houston Roughnecks over the St. Louis Battlehawks, 28-24. This is a game where I thought it was an NFL game since an official's call had a big impact on it.
Yeah, go figure. Well, this was a really good game to watch. I agree that I think when you add the DC Defenders in, I think when you talk about the DC Defenders, Houston and St. Louis, I think you're talking about the top three teams in the league right now. Even in the loss, I thought St. Louis was, very good team. Houston played well. These are two teams that you're going to see, I think, continually winning games. It was a fun game to watch. It really was. And for it to come down to official call, once again, it just kind of, you roll your eyes at it, but, it's going to happen. I don't know that that's ever going to be an element that we're ever going to get rid of, but, this was a great game.
Yeah, I mean, P.J. Walker failed to reach 200 yards passing. It wasn't because he played bad. It's because St. Louis had the ball the whole game. I think they ran twice as many plays as Houston did. And the thing that sticks with me about St. Louis, I think this team has a higher ceiling than the other two. And a lot of that's just because of Jordan Ta'amu, whatever the hell his name is, because I think the kid can play football. And I think we slowly see him getting more and more comfortable. And I think the Roughnecks defense, it is real good. So that tells me that Jordan can, fling the rock a little bit. And the way they run the ball, I think Jay Hayes is doing a good job with them. I think it's possible that I think it's more than likely these two could possibly play again when you come playoff or even championship game.
Well, to go to your point, St. Louis ran 83 plays. Houston ran 49.
Yeah.
So you're looking at almost within a few plays. You're looking almost 2-1. But at the end of the day, I mean, I like this St. Louis team. I like what they do offensively. I like what they do defensively. They kind of, in a way, remind me of DC Defenders in that they've got a good offense. They've got a good defense. They don't do one thing over the top great, but they do everything well. And those are always the more difficult teams to deal with, because if they need to run the football, they can run the football. If they need to throw the football, they can throw the football. They play well against the run. They play well against the pass on defense, and they've got good special teams. So to me, I agree with you. I think they have a higher ceiling, and I think they will be better as the year goes on. And barring injuries, they're a team that by the playoff time, they could be the best team in the league.
That's why I'm picking them right now to win the XFL championship.
No, there you go.
There you go. All right, let's look at the Week 3 games. And we've got one here. If you like to bet, I would bet it. The Houston Roughnecks are given 6.5 points at the Tampa Bay Vipers. The Vipers still have not scored an offensive touchdown. I think P.J. Walker so far, if I had to have a league MVP, Schmidt, it would be P.J. Walker, who's thrown 7 touchdown passes. He's posted a triple-digit passer ranking in both games he's played in. He's only been sacked once. And the thing that sticks out to me is I think Houston has a really good defensive line. I think Tampa Bay has a bad offensive line. I think they really have three bad options at quarterback. I think the Roughnecks win this game by double digits.
I'm going to say the Roughnecks are going to win this game. I'm going to also say that Tampa Bay will get their first offensive touchdown. I think it'll be a little bit closer early on, but I think this Houston team is just going to be too much. So I agree that they will win this game.
All right, next up, the Dallas Renegades, another road favorite, or favored by 5 at Seattle with the Dragons. I think this is a game that could be close, Brian. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll be close. I'm a little bit more with the Seattle team in terms of I don't think they're as bad as everybody thought they were going to be. I think they can do some things. I think if Silvers can kind of play a little bit more consistently from a quarterback standpoint, I think they could be okay. But that being said, I think Dallas is going to win this. I think Dallas was considered one of the best teams in the league. I think the talent level there, I think now that they've got that first win and how they won, I think now we'll start seeing some of that talent shine through. I think Dallas will win this game.
Yeah, I like Dallas by 7 to 10 points. I think Cameron Artis-Payne, who was coming off by the best game in XFL history by a running back, when you look at Seattle, they gave up 119 yards on 25 carries to the Tampa Bay running back last week. So I think Artis-Payne is going to have a big hand in this one also. I think the Renegades win the game also. Next up, the New York Guardians are 10-point underdogs at the St. Louis Battlehawks, Brian.
Oh, take the Battlehawks and the points. This has all the ingredients of being ugly. I'm going to be honest. I think St. Louis is too complete offensively and defensively. We've seen, obviously, that New York can't get out of their way offensively. Defensively, they're not a bad team. But when your offense keeps putting you in bad spots, what else are you going to do? But I think St. Louis is going to win this double digits.
Yeah, Jordan Ta'amu, 78.1% of his passes have been complete. I think that by the time this year's over, he's going to be right there. I think this is a kid that could be the best quarterback in this league. I think P.J. Walker's really special, so I'm going to put him at number 2 for the entire year by the time this is done. I think he passes Cardell Jones. I really like him when I watch him play. I think the Battlehawks win the game. I think they cover the spread. And also, St. Louis has already sold this game out in a 30,000-seat stadium, Brian.
Yeah, and I was actually reading an article today coming out of St. Louis is the resale prices for tickets for this game are higher than when the Rams were there before they went out west. So there's definitely some definitely some interest and some excitement to see that, which now, because of that, and also Seattle being at home, there's the potential for the attendance to be better than week 2 comes into play, which is great for the league.
All right. Next up, the D.C. Defenders are 8-point favorites on the road at the Los Angeles Wildcats. Now, if I'm talking point spread here, Brian, I like D.C. to win the game. But that 8 points for the Wildcats is an awful lot. I don't think the Wildcats are that bad, but they are poorly coached. But I think this is a game where DC's got to travel all the way across the country. I think this is a game where where the Wildcats could cover this game, though.
Yeah, I definitely think it's possible. I still, if I was going to go with the point spread, I still think I'm going to take DC. It may be a 10-point game, but DC is going to win this game regardless. But I think that point spread, while it does scare me a little bit, I just feel like this LA team is a train wreck, and this DC team is pretty good, pretty efficient on every side of the ball, and that's just something I don't think LA is going to be able to handle.
Yeah, and this is a game LA has to win, or all of a sudden we'll see 2,000 people in that soccer stadium.
Yep.
I'm really worried that maybe like at this game. Because, see, we talked before about, because my worry with the quarterbacks is them expanding too quick, as so many leagues do. So I think if they want to go to other cities, I think the best way to do this is if you have cities that aren't supporting their team, just move it to a Philadelphia or wherever you want to move it instead of adding a team.
I think that's always, a good thought process. The one thing that we didn't talk about that I know came up early in the week is the XFL is really going hard after players in the CFL. And So I kind of wonder that if we're not going to start seeing that trickle down effect, which now puts more of the American CFL talent in the XFL, if that's not going to, also include quarterbacks like a Trevor Harris, which now puts the quarterbacking in this league at a good spot. So it's going to be something to see over the next year or two if that happens and we start to see that trickle down. And also, I mean, there's been conversation about, guys that are in the, NCAA that want to play professional football but don't want, maybe are not NFL guys. Maybe now you go to the XFL, instead, some guys just don't want to be in college for 4 years, and I get that.
Some guys don't want to be in college at all.
Exactly. So, maybe this is something that gets looked at. I mean, there's the XFL has a lot of possibilities, and where the next 2 or 3 years go could start affecting the CFL, could start affecting NCAA football. So it's going to get something of watching, because the XFL could end up being the place to be for a lot of different types of talent.
Yeah. I mean, indoor and arena football could suffer from it too. I mean, pretty much everybody could. Now, the thing is this, if it suffers, is it a good thing? I know it's not for indoor football for some people. So, but when you look at it, I mean, there's a ton of talent in the CFL. But could the CFL survive losing even a few of those quarterbacks?
I was thinking about that today, and I'm not sure I have a legitimate answer. Your first inclination is to say, yeah, they can, but look, honestly, I mean, you start losing a Trevor Harris, start losing.
You might have to replace him with Matt McGloin.
Exactly. So the possibility is there. I mean, it could hurt the CFL. Indoor arena football, you're always going to lose guys to the
well, and the good thing about indoor arena football is this: there's really only a couple leagues that are really worth a crap. Most of these leagues floating around, like the AAL or AAF, whatever the hell they call it, I mean, that's not a real league anyways.
Right. But we've had guys that have got the XFL opportunity. So I mean, it's going to happen, but there's always that trickle down effect, and where this is all going to lead in a couple of years. I would love to see in 4 to 5 years. I would love to see the XFL have a really good hold, be a league that we're not sitting here worrying about that they're going to fold, and be that outlet where now maybe instead of 8 teams, maybe 4 to 5 years from now, maybe we have 12 teams. But it's a legitimate league. And again, if LA is not getting it done, move them. Don't add teams, like you said, and I agree, don't add teams for the sake of adding teams when you've got a team like LA that's struggling. Move LA. But at the same time, when you have the opportunity to put other teams in markets that make sense, do that.
And once again, we're not saying to move the LA Wildcats. We're just using them as an example.
Exactly. I mean, it could be the New York Guardians. I mean, whoever. But in 4 to 5 years, if you have 12 teams that are good to strong in every market, now you have a legitimate league, and you have a legitimate place for players to play. And that can do nothing but help football in general. I mean, I'll tell you, 5 years from now, I might not mind coaching the XFL. I wouldn't mind coaching in it now. I think it's a good league, but I like seeing the players that are there having the opportunity. I think that that as long as it stays viable and stays strong, I think it can do nothing but help football in general.
All right, Brian. So we will be back next Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. I promise it'll be Wednesday this time, guys, because that's
You
what
promised
days-
that last week. You lied.
I know, but that happens sometimes. I get busy,
Yeah.
and then I get confused, and I forget what I'm doing, and I'm just hoping I can remember your name as we sign off. But I get you mixed
Well,
up with
I mean,
Jeremiah and Anthony and all of these other people I do shows with.
I know.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody you can follow us on the Grueling Truth at Grueling Truth. If you're interested in the Tyson Wilder fight this weekend, we've got a preview show we did last night just on thegruelingtruth.com. We also have a Grueling Truth Writers Prediction article where 15 of the best writers in the country picked a fight, and it was like an 8-7 result there. Saturday night, immediately after the fight, probably somewhere between midnight and 5 in the morning, we will have a post-fight show about it, as long as it's not real boring and I fall asleep. I better not, because I'm paying $80. But, Brian, any final words before we sign off?
When you read all that, do you have to put it on a Post-it note, or do you just actually do it from your head?
I actually just do it from my head. And I just talk about whatever I remember that we've done in the last couple days. And also, if you want to read my XFL Pick'em articles, which I am like 7-1 in 2 weeks on, you can read that on Saturday morning on thegruelingtruth.com.
Well, that's great, because if you remember, the one game you picked was Tampa Bay to beat Seattle, and I picked Seattle, so I'm actually 8-0 right now. So,
but you're
make
not
sure
8-0
you mention
because we didn't even pick the freaking games the first week, Brian. We didn't have.
But
a
I
show
picked
for
them,
the
and I was 100%.
Okay, whatever. Now you sound like Scott Wilson. And if you don't know who Scott Wilson is, be glad, all right? Just drop your knees and thank God you do. And then, Scott, if you're listening, I'm sorry. I was just teasing.
And if you really want to know who Scott Wilson is, go back to our NFL
Go check out an
show
NFL Pick'em show where Scott entertained the masses on a weekly basis.
And every time that he brings up something with the Cincinnati Bengals and Mike goes off, take a shot. So
yeah, you'll be drunk before the show is done. But
drunk. There are some shows you may have alcohol poisoning.
That was a couple years ago when he used to come on about how A.J. McCarron would be a great starting quarterback.
Yeah. God, I can't wait for that to start up again.
All right. Oh, I want to remind people, tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, live on the NFL show, we will have a mock draft with myself, Anthony Servino, and Sam Teets. Also, tomorrow at 4 o'clock, we will have the Xavier Basketball Weekly Show with me and legendary Xavier broadcaster Andy McWilliams to preview the Xavier Villanova game on Saturday at 2:30. So, you can hear.
I have a question.
Well, sure.
I have a question. Why are you mocking people? That's kind of mean.
Who did I mock?
Well, you said you were doing a show tomorrow mocking draft people. Why are you mocking them? That's kind of
mean. NFL mock draft.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
Have you been drinking again?
No, I haven't had a thing tonight.
You're lying. You're lying. You can't even keep a straight face when I can't see you. I can hear it. Brian, I can hear it. I think next week on the show, I'm going to have Scott on the show, too, so we can do an intervention for you.
That's actually iced tea, so.
Sure it is. Does it have Long Island in it also?
No, it does not. It has regular iced tea. I will take a picture of it to prove to the world that it's iced tea.
Yeah. Well, you can't really prove it. You would have to give us the contents also on the thing, because it could look the same. But
it looks like iced tea.
Sure it does. All right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up before this goes off the rails too much, as Brian tried to take it off the rails at the start. He's going to try to take it off the rails again at the end. But you can hear all of our podcasts on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, over 300, and wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So, for Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth where the legends speak.